He was just my driver. Quiet, lonely, and always respectful. Until one evening, I saw him in a way I never had before. I wasn't supposed to look, but I couldn't walk away. And what began as curiosity turned into something I never expected. Please don't forget to subscribe. Your loves is my motivation. It had been a long, humid afternoon in Savannah, Georgia. The kind where even the shadows seemed too tired to stretch. I had just returned from a gallery showing downtown, still in my summer dress, a soft, ivory fabric that hugged my body loosely but gracefully. I stepped barefoot across the marble floors of my family's old southern estate, the silence of the house wrapping around me like a warm, private veil. My heels dangled from one hand, and with the other, I wiped a line of sweat from my brow. The house had been unusually quiet. My husband, as always, was away on one of his business trips, Hong Kong, Dubai, Los Angeles, always somewhere that wasn't here. And though the house was filled with the hum of central air and the flicker of sunlight through the lace curtains, it still felt lonely. I made my way to the back veranda, drawn to the stillness of the gardens. That's when I saw him, Luke. My driver. Luke had only been working with us for about 6 months. He was tall, broad-shouldered, maybe in his late 30s. There was a rugged, quiet handsomeness to him. The kind of man who didn't speak unless spoken to, but when he did, his voice came low and warm, almost like whiskey poured over ice. He lived in the carriage house out back, part of the property but detached enough to offer privacy. I glanced toward his little house and saw that the back door was open, just slightly. The breeze pushed it wider for a second, and I caught a glimpse of him. He didn't see me. My breath caught. Luke was sitting on the edge of his bed, his head tilted back, his body tensed. One hand was gripping the sheets beside him. The other was moving slowly between his thighs. I froze, part of me wanting to look away, and yet, something deeper kept me rooted there. I wasn't supposed to see this, but I couldn't stop watching. There was something so vulnerable about him, so raw and human. Not just physical. It wasn't lust driving him. It was loneliness. The same kind of aching quiet that filled my own nights when my husband didn't call. When I stared at the ceiling wishing someone would just see me, want me. Not for my name, not for my family's wealth, but for me. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of Luke stayed in my mind. It wasn't about the act. It was the way his body expressed something wordless: desire, pain, need. I found myself thinking about him as I brushed my hair, as I slipped into a nightgown that clung just a little too tight around my waist. The next morning, I left the house early and walked to the carriage house. My bare feet whispered across the dewy grass. I didn't knock. I don't know what came over me. Luke opened the door shirtless, a towel slung around his neck, his chest still damp from a shower. His eyes widened slightly when he saw me standing there in a sundress, my hair still tousled from sleep. "Mrs. Callahan," he said, surprised. "Please," I whispered. "Call me Kate." He stepped aside, unsure, and I walked past him into the cozy little room. The air inside smelled like cedarwood and fresh laundry. It was clean. Simple. "I wanted to talk," I said softly. "About yesterday." Luke stiffened. "You saw that?" I nodded. I wasn't trying to. I paused. "I know what loneliness looks like." His shoulders dropped just slightly, and I saw something shift in his eyes. "I didn't mean." "I'm not angry," I cut in gently. "I'm not embarrassed. I'm curious." Luke sat on the edge of the bed again, his fingers threading together, nervous. "You're married?" "Yes," I said, stepping closer. "To a man who treats me like a trophy he leaves on the shelf." He looked at me then, really looked. And I felt it like a spark in my chest. That morning, we didn't touch. We didn't cross any lines. We sat and talked. I told him about the long nights, the dinners eaten alone, the cold kisses goodbye. And he listened. His silence wasn't empty. It was full of attention. I started visiting him often. Sometimes in the morning before my yoga class. Sometimes late at night when I couldn't sleep. We talked for hours. About books. About movies. About the places he'd dreamed of driving to but never had the chance. One evening, A summer storm rolled in just as I stepped off the back porch. I ran through the rain, giggling like a girl, until I made it to his door. Luke pulled me inside, and for the first time, his hands lingered a little longer on my arms. "You're soaked," he murmured, his voice deeper than usual. "I don't mind." I looked up at him, my hair dripping, my dress clinging to every curve. And then, something in the air snapped. He leaned down slowly. I could feel his breath near my lips. My heart thudded so loud it drowned out the storm. But he stopped, just an inch away. "I can't," he whispered. "You deserve more than a broken man with nothing but an old truck and a quiet room." I reached up, brushing my fingers along his jaw. "You think I care about trucks and bank accounts?" I said. "What I want is someone real. Someone who sees me. Who wants me back." That was the night he kissed me. It wasn't wild or rushed. It was slow, almost reverent. Like he was memorizing the feel of my lips, the way I sighed against his chest. We stood there for what felt like hours, the storm raging outside while something far more electric passed between us. Still, we didn't cross the line. Not that night. But the days that followed felt different. My steps were lighter. My skin tingled whenever I thought of him. He started driving me even when I didn't need to go anywhere. We'd take long routes just to steal more time. The chemistry became undeniable. One evening, we drove out to the edge of the marshlands. The sun was setting, casting the sky in hues of gold and fire. We parked near the bluff and stepped out. The air smelled like salt and magnolia. Luke looked at me with something fierce and tender in his eyes. "Kate," he said, "if you tell me to stop, I will. But if you tell me to stay, I'll never walk away." I didn't speak. I just walked up to him, my fingers undoing the top buttons of his shirt, and kissed him with everything I'd been holding in. It was the start of something neither of us expected, but everything we both needed. The affair bloomed in quiet moments. A brush of fingers when he opened the car door. A whisper of breath near my ear in the hallway. Nights where he held me beneath the stars like I was the only woman on earth. But it wasn't just passion. It was companionship. He helped me feel alive again. He made me laugh, made me feel safe, made me feel seen. And I helped him find purpose again. I filled the silence in his heart with music, color, and warmth. It wasn't perfect. We were cautious. My husband remained oblivious, his world too far away to notice the one unraveling here. Until one morning, my husband returned home unannounced. His suitcase dropped on the floor. His voice echoed through the hall. I stiffened. Luke was in the kitchen, quietly slicing fruit like nothing had happened. Our eyes met. One heartbeat. Two. I walked to my husband, greeted him with a distant smile. Later that evening, after he'd fallen asleep beside me without even asking how I'd been, I slipped out of bed and made my way across the grass to Luke's place. I found him sitting on the steps, waiting. "I thought maybe this was goodbye," he said. I shook my head. "It's not." Because sometimes, love doesn't come in the ways we expect. Sometimes it arrives in the form of a man with calloused hands and a quiet soul, one who helps you heal the pieces of yourself even you forgot were broken. And while the world outside might never understand the connection we share, I knew one thing for sure. I saw my driver playing with himself, and in that accidental moment, I saw more than just loneliness. I saw my reflection. And I decided that neither of us deserved to be alone anymore. Please don't forget to subscribe for more interesting top stories. One request more. Please. Always keep smile on your face.